today we'll start our trip with a schematic. I try to draw a power unit, industrial power unit schematic with the HyDraw CAD 2022, trying also to introduce some new features. I'll also use the HyDraw Library Manager because my intent is also to show a bit of the interactions between HyDraw CAD and HyDraw Library Manager. So I'll start with a new template. So in the new interface, when we click new, we can select the template. And I will start with my hydrometric, which is the default you find. This is something I've been always saying during the previous webinars. I recommend really to build your own template so that every time you start and get the right configuration that you expect from your diagram. So the template, like we see in the HyDraw options, the template is storing all the document related settings. So the type of application, the unit, connection styles, and item ID styles, balloon type, and other miscellaneous stuff. So sometimes when doing training or support, one of the question I get is, why am I changing settings and then next time I open a drawing I don't find these settings? This is because the settings are document related. So if you plan to change, please make the change in the template. And there are, of course, application setting. One of the main difference between HyDraw CAD 2021 and 2022 is how we expose the possibility to use MS SQL or MS Access libraries. And in this case, I'm using an SQL database for my library. It is up to you if you prefer to use Access or SQL. For large organization or companies working with remote offices, I really recommend going for SQL. Or even if you are finding speed issues, connection issues to the database with the standard setup. In my application settings, under drawing template, I have selected which are my template with the title block and border size. So I start my drawing. So my intent is making a 2-page document. So let me spend just few minutes in setting up my drawing space for 2 templates. So I will try to fit into 2 A3. So in the System tab, I will click Insert and select my A3 page. So now I use, although many of those that are familiar with AutoCAD interface will directly plot from model space, I really prefer working in paper space. So paper space is down here, layout 1 and layout 2. So let me quickly show you how to configure my layout in order to print properly. So I can just delete a layout that I don't need. This one for me is page 1. So I can rename the template, the layout, and I can also delete this entity. As you can see, this is a frame showing something inside the model space. I can delete it. With a right click on the template on the paper space, I can do a page setup manager, and I can click modify. Here I can select my default printer, which is in my case DWG to PDF, and I can select the paper size. So you will notice that I have a short list here. This is very easy to customize. Under properties, there are a lot of paper sizes, so you can really filter what you want. So you can uncheck all and check just what you need. So usually I use the ISO full bleed, A4, A3, A2, A1, A0, and then you click OK. Now I select my page, so it will be A3. The orientation is landscape. And when I click OK, this change is applying to my page. So now I want to plot what is in the paper space, in the model space. So I will move to the layout, and click Insert View. And now I will be able to select a frame in the model space and press Enter and put it here. I want to scale it maybe to 1 by 1, and I can frame it. So I can right click, move, and move from here to 0, 0, so that it is properly framed. So this will be my first page. And I go back now in the model space. Let me put another page. So I select the entities, right click, copy from here, and I move to the right. Remember, F8 means you move ortho. If you type directly a dimension like 500 in this case and press enter, it will move by 500 millimeter on that direction. So this is my second page. So let me define, this is page, double click on the title block, 1 of 2. And this one will be 2 of 2. And I want to plot that page, so I will duplicate this one page, move or copy. I copy at the end. I can change the name, so this would be for me page 2. And again, I can frame everything. So in page 2, I again move to layout, insert view, and I'll select the second page. The scaling will be 1 by 1, and again, I can move wherever I want. 0, 0, so it goes directly to the origin. So now that I have prepared my document, page 1 and page 2, and in the model space, I have everything ready to start. Of course, if I want to reuse this in the future, I can just do a file, save as, drawing template, and here I could save it as 2 pages A3. So then next time I can start from here. So my drawing is already set with 2 pages. And this is the easiest way to create a template. So let me start my diagram. And I start from subsystem, although we normally don't have subsystem when we start using HyDraw CAD, but I'll jump with a power unit. And then I'll show you how to build a subsystem and save to the library. So I'll take a standard power unit I've made some time ago. And as you can see, when you insert a subsystem, I have selected this option down here on the left, explode subsystem. Let me try to highlight it. So this option here, explode subsystem. So when the explode subsystem is selected, when you place the subsystem in the drawing, it is automatically exploded. So my subsystem is has been made again some weeks ago. It has some smartness in it, and I made we already made a webinar showing how to make dynamic blocks in HyDraw. So this is a smart envelope that can be modified in size. So it can represent a reservoir, and I can fit more items inside. This is how normally I represent external ports on a reservoir, so with this symbol. If you don't see this symbol in your external port, so the external port are visible here in the second tab here. And let me change my color. So this is the external port library. So if you don't find all the symbols that I have, you must go in the HyDraw options, which in a shortcut is YO. You type YO in the command line, and then go to the application setting, external port, and there you can turn on the external ports you need. I like to use this double T for the reservoir ports, while I use the circle for the manifold, and we'll see later during the webinar. So if you need an additional port, you can say T2, and maybe that's a BSP 1:2. Again, you can double click on the symbol and position where you want. And then I can make some room here and move my entity. Now, this is the symbol, the standard ISO symbol for temperature and level indicator, which I don't like, and most of the customers do not like. Let me edit it. So right click and edit. And this command will enter in edit mode. And really you can do whatever you want here. So let me just remove some entities. In edit symbol mode, on the right, we have all the ISO building blocks that allows us to quickly make symbols according to ISO. But in this case, this is not an ISO symbol, but simply I want to make, using the AutoCAD commands, I just make a rectangle. That would be the boundary. Let me use the ISO layer in any case, ISO uni. Let me use an AutoCAD command called offset, OFF, offset. 1 millimeter offset, so I make an offset of this inside. Let me move my symbol somewhere here, and let me save changes. So this is my new symbol showing a level indicator and temperature and level indicator. It's not yet in my library, so I can really add it to the library. So adding to the library is very easy in HyDraw CAD. And let me go to this test folder. To add symbols to the library, we need to click open library editor command. And we just click add and touch the symbol and press enter for confirmation. This command is adding the symbol to the library. And now it is here. A new feature that we introduced in the library manager, the new 2022 library manager, is the ability to cut and paste symbols. So for instance, if you realize that this symbol is not in the right place, you can just right click and cut, and you can paste on the correct and paste. And then remember, you can move the symbols where you want so that they will show up in the library. So now I expect in HyDraw CAD to go into the fluid level indicator and find this symbol as the first. Let's try. And we go to the gauge, fluid level indicator, and now we see this symbol. So if you find that you really you scroll too much when you look for a symbol, just go spend a few minutes in the library manager and rearrange the symbols that you need. Now I want to put a standard NG6 subplate here in my drawing, and I'll start searching for a component in the library. So I will click on the more search options, and I want to look for an Eurofluid subplate. So I will go to my manufacturer. So make sure that if you are willing to search in the online database, make sure you select fluidpowertools.com and the application only hydraulic, because we store only hydraulic component in Fluid Power Tools. And in the manufacturer, you can filter the manufacturer that you want. So in this case, I want a Eurofluid subplate. If you don't know the item number, you can just click search. This is a generic search for that manufacturer, and it will list all the model families available for that manufacturer. So I need an EM subplate, and I can see, let me take this one, 2 places, double click, and I place my symbol in the drawing. The component will come also with the datasheet, which you can open here by using the 3 dots. So now I can see the datasheet linked to that component. To be honest, I don't like to match this symbol, so let me edit. So any change you apply to a symbol is valid in the drawing you are working on. Of course, you can always save a symbol to the library so that all the information are stored and ready to be used by any other user in the same library. So I do edit. I show you a different technique I adopt to manage these standard components. So normally I like to have the A and B port with a different position. So just I move them slightly to the right. So this is nothing else than AutoCAD. So I just move, and by using the fluid lines, we can create entities. And the same I do here, so I can just delete these two lines and copy. And then I can move the ports there. Another technique I adopt in this kind of symbol is, although this is not perfectly ISO, I like to see the colors for the connection line. So the tank line for me is I move to the drafting menu, select the line, and go to isolin reservoir, and I can match properties and copy the attributes to other entities here. And same for the pressure line, that's isolin pressure and match properties. So this is my pressure. Also, I normally make more room, more vertical room, and I show you why later. And really, I could move these lines up a bit, and also I can reduce. Although this symbol is slightly larger, but I find it better, more flexible, and we'll see in a minute. I can save changes, so now this changes is applicable in my drawing. I want to flip it vertically because I usually put the stack vertical down. And let me start making some connection lines. So I make a connection line from P to P. And I make also another connection line from tank to tank. The reason for making this symbol so big is that because frequently this subplate may have a relief valve, and I see a lot of customers really managing this relief valve as an additional component to the subplate. So they normally in the part list they consider the subplate plus the relief valve. So again, there are several techniques. Usually in these Eurofluid subplates, there is a Bosch Rexroth valve called, let me reset, it's a VS30. That's the model family for a Bosch Rexroth valve. Let me just select the Bosch Rexroth. There are so many components in the library that really sometimes it's better to filter the manufacturer. If you are distracted by all these manufacturer in the library, make sure you select what you need in the services data access settings. So this is the list of all the manufacturer, and this list is growing. We keep adding manufacturer and components to the library. So here really you can check only the manufacturer that are relevant for you. So now I look for a VS30 and search. So this is a relief valve. And I double click, I place the relief valve here. I didn't do a good job. I will change a bit the size of the subplate. But the reason to do this normally is because I really place the subplate directly on top. Well, what I could do is I could just change the symbol. I do an edit symbol. So in order not to spend too much labor on it. And I can just put a connection dot. So although in this case, I'm not really considering it as I'm not doing connection lines, but I have made a symbol that is physically just inside the other item. So now these components, which physically looks like one symbol only, is made of two symbols. So one is the subplate item 9 and the other is the relief valve. There are additional techniques to do that. And the other technique is to really use directly the symbol with the relief, which we have. So we can go back to the symbol, manifold subplate. Let me take directly a flip the subplate symbol, NG6, multi-station, and let me take two position with relief. And in this case, if you want to manage the relief valve as a separate component from the subplate, you should treat it as an accessory. And it is possible because I can save this component in my library by using the click save. And I can add the same component to a symbol. So I can, in the new symbol, I can search for an accessory. And I can see all the accessories or all the components as an accessory. And I will find the new valve I have just added. This dialog selection accessory from library has changed compared to the previous version. It's easier and allows you to do multiple selection of accessories in one go instead of the old interface. And you can also remove accessory linked to a component. When I click OK, now the accessory is linked directly to my component. So practically, in terms of part list, there is no difference in using the solution on top or down. Still, we have two items. I find the solution up more flexible because it allows me to have one symbol only for subplate without relief and with the relief, and I can add the relief when I need as an additional symbol. Of course, in this case, what I will do is I will save my symbols in the library. So again, like I did, edit, add my subplate. And I can add also my relief valve. So there is no reason for not adding new symbols. Even if they are strange symbols, they are not made the way the other symbols are done. But really, it makes sense to add symbols to the library in order to save time during schematic creation. Probably in the next webinar, I'll show you a technique to manage mini power packs. So there, really, you have a really standard configuration, and by creating a small symbol, it becomes very, very easy, very handy, and quick to put together a diagram. So now I'm going to add some sandwich modules here. So again, I will do a search in the online database, and I'll search for I want a Ethos valve NG6, but I'm not. I don't remember exactly the item number, so I will look for a Rexroth Z2S6, and I want a replacement for a double PO check valve on A and B port, and I want to show link the components for Ethos HR012. Double click and I can place my symbol in the drawing. Now I also want an equivalent directional control valve for W6J, always for Ethos. So I take the symbol. I need this symbol, the stackable up. Show linked models, and again I filter and take my DHE0713. Of course, I could have directly looked for that item number. So in the search result, I could have directly written DHE0713. and that will find directly. We improved the search logic. In the past, it was more critical because really it was expecting star minus. So now the search is ignoring special items. So it should be easier to find items. So as you can see, when I place a symbol, automatically I get the cavity displayed, which I really don't like. And you may not even want to have always in the drawing. Remember, this is really a one-time configuration you do in the HyDraw options. So you click the options, go to application settings, display format, and you switch off. If you don't see anything here, just click reset. So this command will show you, will load all the display format in the drawing, and then you can switch off, for instance, the cavity. So now next time you place a component, and let me put just this again, this one, the cavity will not be displayed. Of course, what has already been made is still valid. So I will just hide the display settings. Now let's say that this is hose, and I want to define attribute for this hose. So a connection line may become a hose just by using the connector information and hose. And we have the possibility to look in the database and find information. Now I don't have many hose in the library, so let me show you how to add some hose information. So I have a bug. I found a bug in the library manager 20. Remember, it's a beta version, so it's we may have some issues. And so in my 2022 library manager, it's not showing any pipe and tube information, but in this case, I'll use the older one, the library manager 2021. And let me open a catalog for hose, just manually, but you can have Parker or whichever hose you want. So really, in order to build a new hose, you can just click new, and you start defining a nominal size. Let's say it's item 10. The part number is H10031010 star. The manufacturer is, if important, you can type in manually. The cut length, we can leave blank. The internal diameter is maybe not needed. The outer diameter is 20. The maximum pressure, you can type whatever we've used, the 280. And you can also put the temperature range, min, max, minimum bend ratio, radius, so 100 millimeter, and so on. You can fill in only what you want, and of course, inner diameter must be there, and it's the nominal size. So let's put it 10 millimeter and save. And now this is a new item in the library. Then you can use the same to add new ones. 12, and this is item 12, and it will be 12 millimeter. Outer it's 23.5, and again, and we do a save as. So now I have 2 items in my library. And now if I get back to HyDraw, I will be able, for a connection line, to select hose and go in the library and search. So I will see Parker manually. I see there were already other items for manually in my library. But so let me take this one, is the one that I have just added. And so I click OK. And now this line becomes my item number. The line can have also an ID. So let's say it's P1, that's the ID number. So in this case, for my hose, I defined that I want to display the part number, but really this is highly customizable according to your need. For instance, if this is not a hose, it's a pipe or a tube, and I go into my tube libraries and select any tube I need. Now this is a different type of information this is displaying. So in the HyDraw Library Manager, you can configure which attributes you want to be displayed in the drawing according to the type of connection lines. So I see a question regarding the hole selection. So let me do again. Let me make a connection. Well, let me add some more complexity to the diagram. Let me add a cylinder. We can search for a symbol, cylinder. I place it here. I do a connection line. And my connection line must become a hose. So when I select the connection line, I'll go to the connector and define that the connector is a hose. And then when I go to my select from library, HyDraw CAD will show me all the available hoses that are in the library. And there are many. I can filter by internal diameter, size, manufacturer. So I can just get Parker only. I can take one and click OK. And now this item, this connection line get a label for the hose. In order to be able to extract a hose list, I need also to put an ID number. So let me call it C1, the cylinder one. So when you have lines defined with an ID and also attributes, it is possible to extract. In the System tab, you have the possibility to extract a connector list. So the connector list is made on a selection. And you can define, select if you want a hose or a pipe and tube list. So basically, we have two different connector lists according to the type of connection that we make. So we do a hose, next, and this is the line ID. So we make the hose list here. So line ID, the name of the line, cut length, and it goes from a component 9 port A1 to component 13 port C, and so on. So it is also giving a routing information. So from which item it's going and to which other item. Let me put a motor, hydraulic motor, vane and gear, and insert here. And I rotate to the right. So let me make, let's say that the drain line is going from here directly to here. And I don't like the way it made, so let me stretch it and make it straight. And this is not good, so let me move it up and stretch it. Now, when you have very long lines, it may be difficult to read your diagram. So in the newer HyDraw CAD 2022, we have the possibility to put a jumping reference breaking a line that has already been made. So I want a jumping reference on the drain line. It is asking if I want to break it. Yes. I want to start breaking from here up to here. And the jumping reference name is drain 1 and the sheet is just 1. And now this is creating two jumping references in the same document. And I can make my connection line here and the other connection line there. So the question is about the position of this text. So you can move the text all around. So the text is not fixed in the connection line. So it's automatically added to the connection line on top of the connection at a certain distance. It is controlled in the options, connection. And there you see the line ID properties show on both ends if length is more than So you have the possibility to display it twice if the line is more than a desired length. Without this option, the text will be displayed only at the beginning of the connection line. When you stretch a connection line, the text will move accordingly. If you move the text in a different position and then you stretch the connection line, then the connection will get back to the original position, and then you will be able to move. So the logic applied here is that the text will stay there, and then if you want, you move. But when you stretch a connection line, it should really stay where it is. I see in the question something strange is reported, so it's better that we have a support session and check this behavior. The design behavior is the following. So if you move an attribute on a connection line and then you stretch the connection line, the attribute will jump again on top of the connection line, so you don't lose a track of which label was linked to that line. And we decided to put the text along the connection line because it's very clear which attributes are linked to which line, mainly in the situation where you have several parallel lines, which is very common on hydraulic application. We have many lines, and then it could be very tricky to identify which attribute is for which line if you have not the text directly on top of the connection line. I want to save a subsystem. So again, here I don't like the display the footprint. Let's say that this is an item I frequently use. So why not saving it as a subsystem? So creating subsystem is really like we do with symbols, but the subsystem is made out of symbols and connection line. We can go into any folder, stack modules, and we can always in edit mode, we can add a subsystem. So we can select the entities that we need, press enter. In this case, HyDraw CAD is asking which subsystem type we need. I really don't need to specify a subsystem type. Selecting a subsystem type is relevant if you intend later to specify a item number for that subsystem. For me, it's really a part of diagram that I need for a new application. So that for me is a stack assembly, and the insertion point is maybe the P line. And remember, I could have saved this subsystem in the library without even saving this symbol to the library. In fact, in my library, I don't have dynamic blocks for the reservoir, but the dynamic block is stored in a subsystem. So the advantage of the subsystem is that really they freeze a part of diagram that you have made with also additional intelligence that you can put in those items that you draw. Now, in any new diagram, I could just insert my subsystem. So if I had to make the same exact power unit, then it will be very easy. I take my power unit, my subsystem, and connect. The advantage of working with subsystem is that really you can sort, arrange the folders like you want by application, by customer, and then it becomes very easy, very handy to put together a new system, also by reusing a part of diagrams already designed. Of course, I want to make a part list for my system. So let me just do a quickly item ID numbering. So with item ID, I can select all items in the diagram. And this dialog will show me the possibility to start numbering, maybe start numbering from 100. And from left to right, HyDraw CAD is numbering all items. So this is item 100 because it is the most left item, and then going left to right. You can run this item ID commands multiple times. So for instance, if the subplate is item 200, you number only the selection from 200. And the same cylinders and motors, we start from 300 and so on. Let's say that this valve is set at 180 bar, so we can type in 180 and it is displayed. Another advantage by using this technique is really that then the display settings are related to the component. So it's easier to display additional information on the symbols. So frequently I use the same technique also when I make sandwich blocks, custom sandwich block with maybe 2 relief valves or 2 counterbalance valves. I like to have basically 2 or 3 different symbols because then it's easier to display attributes for those symbols. Remember, it is always possible to place symbols on top of connection lines. So for instance, if we go on the symbols and look for a check valve line mounted, maybe HyDraw, and run search, this command will give us a list of available check valves. So let me take this one, double click, and I can place the connection line on the symbol on top of the connection line, and automatically the attribute of the connection line will be replicated. In this case, probably really does not make sense to have 2 of the same. So usually that check valve is maybe we represent it this way. So we directly fit into the fittings of the subplate. Again, this one now is not part of anything, so we can just renumber items. Item, all the power unit, including my valve 1, and we start numbering from 100. Now I can make a part list of the entire diagram and press enter. It is possible to customize the part list, so you can select a different part list format and you can create your own in the HyDraw options. By using next and insert, we are able to insert the part list in the drawing. This is not really completed, so you can go directly into the symbol. So the suction strainer maybe is an MP filter, and the model code is whatever it is. And now we have a warning that the part list is not up to date. So we can just right click and update our part list, and now the item number is displaying. Please remember, it is possible to configure the part list according to your need. You just need to go here, list settings, and then you can create your own part list format. In this version, we have introduced a new feature called the Simplified DWG. So if you need, this is really helpful when you work with different CAD application and you want to integrate the diagram into maybe SolidWorks or Inventor drawing easily. So with Simplified DWG, you can select a portion of a diagram, maybe just this one, enter, and HyDraw is asking you to maybe save anywhere. So let's webinar, HyDraw. And this is my diagram. Oh yes, please always remember that it's better to save the diagram immediately, because otherwise the autosave will not work. So I've drawn for 40 minutes, but I should have really saved immediately. Otherwise, if you have a system crash, then you lose what you have done. Please save always the first document. Then HyDraw will auto save, and you can control the auto save. That's webinar. And you can control the auto save in the options, AutoCAD options. Open and save, and there you have automatic save every certain minutes. If you want to plot, since in the beginning of this this webinar, I have configured my pages 1 and pages 2. So as you see, page 1 and page 2 are okay. So I will just need to run publish, export, print, batch plot, page 1 and 2 to PDF, and publish. Webinar save. And now it created a PDF. Let me show the PDF. It's on the other screen, and this is the PDF. So can you modify each title block separately? So in terms of attributes, yes, because any attribute you type in is independent of each other. In terms of shape, not, because the title block has a unique reference name. So it works really like AutoCAD. So a unique block name cannot have two different shapes unless you make dynamic blocks. So with dynamic blocks, it is possible to create multi-shaped AutoCAD blocks. But in terms of attributes, yes, absolutely, you can edit the attribute, because the attribute is designed in a way that it does not replicate automatically on each title block. I use a different technique normally for multi-sheet, and let me just bring it here. So let me make a new drawing, starting with 6A2. So this is a different technique I show you. Maybe this is interesting, and if you find any information not really just that could be explained deeper, just feel free to send us an email. We may dedicate a webinar, just a topical webinar for particular items. So in this case, I have made a 6-page template, and I can draw anything inside here. So let's say I put just random geometries here. And I have only one title block, and the title block is replicated in all the different pages. So in this case, I use a different technique. I use one title block with common attributes, and I simply have 5 out of 6 and 6 out of 6 and 3 out of 6. So this is a different way of managing a multi-sheet drawing by having all the relevant project information in one title block and replicating in the paper space on the other pages. But really, that may we may, if you are interested, we can dedicate a webinar in the future.